Yeah, I want to break down several things. Like, I want to talk about just crises in general, because I think you're hitting on something about how they haven't stemmed the bleeding. But I want to start with something that you quasi are familiar with this morning, but from the other side. This morning, the House Democratic Caucus met down at their headquarters. They all, as the Republicans do, and you're well aware of that, every week. And so, but this is the angle that I want to take you from. Outside the meeting were a bunch of staffers from the NRCC, the National Republican Congressional Committee, which obviously you're very familiar with. And they were holding these signs that said Joe Biden is unfit for office, because obviously a lot of media trying to pick off members as they went in. My contention is that this is a mistake for our side to be urging Biden to get out of the race. Let them do this. Why are we doing it? Because number one, why get in the way of them? But number two, and this is where I want you to either push back on me and tell me I'm wrong, or tell me why I'm onto something. But I feel like I would rather play Biden in this game, if you will. We know him. We have every bit of oppo on him. The American people know him. Then at the X factor, right? Probably Kamala Harris, maybe someone new. But why are we trying to urge him to get out? Let this process play out. It benefits us. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, I mean, I think Trump was correct on Hannity when he said that he's convinced Biden's staying in.
Right.
And I've said all along, first of all, if your alternative is the White House, Marine One, Air Force One, Camp David, or bicycling in Delaware, why would you pick bicycling in Delaware? And it's clear that Jill feels strongly, Hunter feels strongly, and they're reinforcing Biden's natural stubbornness. So my working assumption is that he's probably not going to go anywhere. There was a day or two when I thought the avalanche might build. But here's the other thing. When Nixon stepped down, he had major Republican leaders saying they would vote to impeach him. In Biden's case, you would have to, I think, employ the 25th Amendment. And it's not going to happen. And the Black Caucus is so strongly for Biden, despite the opportunity for Kamala Harris to become the nominee. They have clearly indicated that they will, in fact, go to the mattresses to fight for him. So my view would be the less we say, the more we allow it to roll out. And Trump has been remarkably disciplined for the last week.
Best week he's had.
And just let it roll out. Let the New York Times every other day write an attack piece. Let the Wall Street Journal every day write an attack piece. And let the Washington Post every third day write an attack piece and see how it plays out. Biden's not going to get any stronger. And it's probably, sadly, his mental condition is going to get worse and become visibly worse, which I think anybody who's had an adult relative go through this kind of cognitive change can watch it with a sense of sympathy and sadness and really wonder why Jill's putting him through this.
I think that's the concern a lot of people have. But here's what I don't get. This morning, James Carville, who, long-standing political operative, writes in the New York Times, and this I want to read directly from this so we're not mincing words. He says, "Mark my words, Joe Biden is not going to be is going to be out of the 2024 presidential race. Whether he is ready to admit it or not, his pleas on Monday to congressional Democrats for support will not unite the party behind him. Mr. Biden is staying in the race, but it's only a matter of time before the Democratic pressure and public and private polling lead him to exit the race. The jig is up, and the sooner Mr. Biden and Democratic leaders accept this, the better. We need to move forward." Now, I agree with you and your assessment, but what are we missing that James Carville isn't?
Well, I mean, first of all, Carville likes being a contrarian, and it doesn't hurt his speech business, and it doesn't hurt his long-term reputation. Second, I think in his mind, he has a dynamic vision that we're going to see more mistakes, and that, day by day, people are going to realize, this guy couldn't possibly serve 4 years. I mean, I was shocked. I don't know about you, but Calista and I were in Rome, and we got up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to watch the debate. And I thought from our side, if Biden made 2 or 3 mistakes in 90 minutes, that would be pretty good for our team. I was stunned and frankly felt bad about the total collapse of that debate. I've never seen anything like it. And I think that was a turning point because after a year of denying that he was getting weaker, the whole country realized that they'd been lied to. And I think what Carville is gambling is that there's a trajectory of decline and that trajectory accelerates and that you're going to see more examples of Biden not being capable of being president. Not just a question of winning or losing, not being capable of being president.
So, right. But that's what I think we all see. This is not a one-off. It wasn't a bad night. It wasn't a cold. It wasn't jet lag. The reality is you get older and those conditions exacerbate. So Carville gets it. I think he understands that it's not going to get better for Biden. But the political reality is that, as Trump said on Hannity last night, Biden has the delegates. He gets to decide, and he has no sign of going anywhere. And that's where I think, I get it. And you brought this up before. Is he making a mistake listening entirely to Jill and Hunter as opposed to trusted aides? You've been in these big decisions before, right? Who do you listen to?
Look, first of all, there are pretty good arguments that if you have his kind of cognitive problems, you don't listen to many people, if anyone, and that there's a pattern of people as they get older getting more stubborn and rejecting information that doesn't please them. So you have that problem. You also have a really simple question here, and I've said this for about 8 months now. He has no upside leaving. First of all, if he announces that because he's so fragile, he can't run for re-election, that immediately asks the question, well, then shouldn't you step down? How can you stay as president for the next 6 months if you're too fragile to be in a campaign? So there's where they've now found themselves, there's no good outcome, I think is how I would describe it. And if you're Biden, what's you're sitting in the White House surrounded by your wife and your son. What's the genuine pressure way to do anything?
Well, isn't it legacy? I've always argued that Biden's legacy is all of these people he's appointed, Pete Buttigieg, Ketanji Brown Jackson, that he wants to be seen as the progressive North Star that said, I put the first LGBTQIA C3PO 526 in office. I did this as part of my cabinet. I appointed this black woman, this transgender person. And that by maybe handing the mantle off to the first female black nominee, that would be seen as the Biden legacy. I did this. I created this environment. To your point, I think if he loses to Trump, which there's no way he doesn't right now, and he goes down epically, that will be his legacy. And I think that Biden is more concerned. He always talks about my word as a Biden, and everything's about the Biden legacy, and my uncle this and Joey that. I think he's really concerned more about legacy than accomplishment.
First of all, to what extent do you believe anything Joe Biden says? So Biden may tell you it's about legacy. I think it's about power. And we're asking Biden to quit being the most powerful person on the planet. The Bidens have been grifters ever since he first won. They've had all sorts of deals in Delaware. His brother and his son have made a lot of money off the family name. And they have learned to be openly, cheerfully dishonest on the grounds that nobody will challenge them. And so they just say whatever they want to say. And in Biden's case, he says all sorts of stuff and has always said all sorts of stuff that makes no sense. So if you said to him, doesn't your legacy really matter? He would say, oh, yes, the Biden name is really important to me. If you said to him, well, that means you should give up. He would say, no, the Biden legacy is never give in. The Bidens are never quitters. And what he'll tell you is what he thinks he has. He's a little bit like a clumsy and not very bright version of Bill Clinton. I mean, Clinton has, as you know, has this marvelous capacity to look you in the eye, tell you that it's Christmas, and by the time he's done talking to you, you're looking for the mistletoe. And it's all a lie. It's just, but he does it so well that you kind of like being part of the dance. Well, Biden has the same characteristic of dishonesty as Bill, but he has none of the skills. And so in the end, I think what you have is a tired old man who is less and less capable of doing things, whose wife and son both tell him, "You're doing great." And most of his senior staff, remember, their power and their money come from being his people. So most of them are saying, "We can get there. You came from behind. You know how to do this. We can beat Trump." And nobody else can. And frankly, I think it's likely, as weak as he now is, I think he's probably the best chance the Democrats have. I just did a piece for Gingrich 360 called "Collapsing with Kamala." And I do think anybody else they try to put in at this stage is likely to actually run worse than Biden.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.